We are going to go to our update on the foundation, and then we will move back to our consent calendar. For those of you who are not here, I did pull the consent calendar minus the minutes this morning so that each of you, if you so wanted, could weigh in on any of those issues. With that, Dr. Lanning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning. And I've actually got about 4 different items I want to run through quickly for you. First of all, Member Baum at the last meeting requested, and we worked with Steve Bruckman on an update or a policy analysis of the FERPA regulations as they apply to the distribution, to the access to alumni records by foundations at the college level in their fundraising activities. And an opinion was just issued by Steve Bruckman's office, which we have shared in distributing to the college foundations throughout the state. That's something that's been requested, as I mentioned at the last meeting, by college foundations for the last couple of years, and I'm very excited that we have that in place. I want to thank certainly the Vice Chancellor for his work on that, along with our legal counsel.
Could you, Vice Chancellor Bruckman, could you give us just very, very brief what that basically says?
Yes. The issue is the extent to which college foundations can access student records in terms of their addresses and phone numbers, primarily alumni, but perhaps also students to contact them to seek donations. And the regulation, the state and federal law limits access to student records for numerous very good reasons, but there are exceptions and processes for access where appropriate. And in this case, the foundations can have access to student addresses if they go through certain steps, primarily identifying those records as what's called directory information, and notifying students what is directory information, giving students the opportunity to opt out if they don't want their records shared. So the records can be made available to the foundations as long as the districts or the colleges go through a series of steps that are not very difficult to meet.
Thank you. And it's our hope, of course, that this will help the colleges and districts in interpreting this. It's been interpreted differently at different points by a variety of colleges and districts throughout the last couple of years, so this should be very helpful, I think, to everybody involved. Second, I wanted to touch on the budget for the next fiscal year. As many of you, if not all of you know, the TANF contract was terminated by the California Department of Education. That results in the elimination of a program that the foundation has operated for the past several years, and a total of about $4.5 million in overall revenue to the foundation, a portion of which, of course, supports our administrative overhead and a lot of the services and benefits that we deliver to the system and to the Chancellor's Office and to the Board of Governors. However, we've just completed the budget for next fiscal year, and despite the elimination of that program, and obviously we're taking steps to mitigate the impact of that elimination, but the contributed support to the Board of Governors and Chancellor's Office will not change next year. We will remain at the same cash level that we have previously been at. We met the other day with both Vice Chancellor Skinner and Vice Chancellor Bruckman and prepared them to take potentially a 10% cut. But we've completed the budget now, and we're going to be able to remain at the exact same level we've been at the past few years. So I'm happy to report that that will not change. Obviously, the impact of that contract being eliminated and the impact it has upon some of our staff is another matter entirely, but we feel it's very important to be able to maintain the level of service that we provided to this organization going forward, and we're taking steps to guarantee that that does not change despite that contract elimination. Happily, we have some other contracts and grants that have arisen over the past year that have helped to stem the tide of negativity that one contract is generated. So that said, there will be no change to anything going forward for the next fiscal year. Third, we had talked about several meetings ago now the results of a study on capacity building and the potential for additional increased capacity and revenue generation at the colleges that was funded by the Kresge Foundation last year. And you all remember a report that was issued and a presentation that was given at this board. And there has been some discussion about what's next. And I wanted to inform you of a few things that are happening now in follow-up to that report having been generated, both in the state and at the national level, both of which I think are very exciting as a result of what's happened here in California. One, we're working with the chancellor. He's expressed great interest in creating a revenue generation and capacity building council or work group that would meet over a defined period of time and identify the best approach perhaps in developing a plan that would be both attractive to funders and to the colleges throughout the state. And the idea being that we would have developed a list of potential members and that we would convene that group in the near future, and we're looking forward to that happening very soon. Second, I was invited to present a keynote address at the League for Innovation in the Community College National Conference in San Diego in March. That presentation that I delivered focused on the results of the study in California and how it is applicable not just to colleges and systems in our state, but also to community college systems nationally. And we've continued communications throughout the country with a number of different state systems, as well as individual colleges, since the release of the study. And that communication is ongoing and, in fact, has fostered development of some new partnership opportunities with a couple of other state systems, which we're very excited about because they're both learning from what we're doing in California, but also now potentially benefiting from it. And building those ties that bind our systems together in various states can only help our work here in California as well. One example is the state of Ohio community college system, which is 23 colleges and about 300,000 students a year, is looking at the ability of some of the contracts that we've negotiated for the benefit of our colleges in California to be applied to their colleges in Ohio without them having to go through the many, many steps of RFP processes and bids and convening of committees and so on. And at the same time, that would benefit our gross volume on the contract that we currently carry, which ultimately would result in additional benefit to our system as well. So by saving both administrative cost and ultimately real costs to the colleges in Ohio, we may be able to additionally benefit our colleges here in California with increased savings or increased revenue. So we're excited about that development, and we see more of that as a potential going down the road. Given the fact that we are the single largest system in the country, we have opportunities to do that type of thing with other states that, of course, are significantly smaller than ours. Third, among the ideas presented by us to Kresge initially was the concept of offering a statewide social enterprise academies program to train the colleges on how to create and implement a plan to generate additional revenue for colleges via earned income and social enterprise efforts. The Academies for Social Entrepreneurship has received funding from the California Endowment to fund 8 colleges to send 5 representatives each to a year-long social enterprise academy, and this is being launched in June, just next month. This can and will serve as a model from which to expand other colleges in our state as part of an overall proposal to funders that we're in the process of developing both with the Academies for Social Entrepreneurship and other partners right now. We see the long-term impact of this really being an opportunity to both diversify the way some colleges pursue alternative revenue strategies and also simply to educate professionals in our system about what those opportunities might be going forward. So this program is launching, as I mentioned, next month with the idea that over the ensuing 12 months, we'll have the ability not only to integrate some of these modern and entrepreneurial business practices into those colleges and certainly in diffusing them among the campuses of the administrators involved in this study, but also then taking another step beyond that and working with funders at a national and statewide level to integrate this more fully into our system. And again, this is a direct outcome of the Kresge study that was commissioned a couple of years ago. And finally, the AACC has launched a nationwide commission, also funded in part by Kresge along with Gates, to discuss community college funding, student achievement gaps, student need for remediation, metrics of accountability, the complex mission of community colleges, and more. These comprise topics that both our program officer, Bill Moses at the Kresge Foundation, and Dennis Udall at the Hewlett Foundation, another partner of ours, and this system have initially had discussed with us last fall. And they both made the point that these are absolutely critical highlights of anyone's attention. And certainly in the California focus that we had in our study, they wanted to ensure that these were points that we focused upon in the study. Ultimately, now we're seeing a collective energy around these topics generated in part by the Kresge study and certainly in our discussions with both Kresge and Hewlett subsequent to the study being launched. And we anticipate that this will continue with not just this nationwide effort that AACC has launched with Kresge and Gates, but also with additional activity here in California with Kresge, with Hewlett, and some of our other partners that are very interested in this work. And we've talked extensively with the Chancellor about this effort, and thought is ongoing about how we could continue to leverage this opportunity, certainly both within our state and at the individual colleges and districts that we're serving. So there's certainly more to come on this topic, but I wanted to let you know that the work is ongoing and that we're seeing the benefit of it, not just in our system with the Social Enterprise Academies being launched, but also now at a national level with the things that Kresge is doing to really leverage what they've gained from our study here in California at a national level. And I think that ultimately will, again, benefit us in the long run as well. Are there any questions on any of this so far?
Yes, I have one then, Member McDougal. Just clarify, the termination of the TANF contract, was that something that was set to expire? Was that a budget cut of some kind? I just don't recall.
2 years ago, it was slated to expire. It was extended through the good work of both our office and the Chancellor's office, and it was extended on essentially what would be called soft money, which is the ARA funding. That 2-year window, of course, has now expired, and in this environment, there was really not another pot of money we could go to. And so ultimately, that contract is expired as of June 30th. So we are winding down now in that program. That program affected 65 campuses throughout the state, and many thousands of single mothers that are receiving job training to reenter the workforce and ultimately become licensed child care providers in communities where, of course, that is a premium as well. So the ripple effect of this is not small, and I don't want to downplay it by any stretch. I just simply want to let you know that we are mitigating the fiscal impact to the foundation and to the system office, but the impact in real terms on the human level is not small.
Thank you. Member McDougal.
Just a quick question to Vice Chancellor Bruckman. On the information to which the foundations have access, what I understood it to be was directory information, the name, address, phone number for the students. Is my assumption is nothing more than that. Is that right?
Yes. Directory information is defined by the district. So a district could say that directory information is only addresses. It could say it's only phone numbers. Okay. It could that there some other items could be included potentially. Generally, we're talking about that basic information.
But the option to define it, including addresses, is open to the district.
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. The other comment was more of a request on Dr. Lanning's report. I was particularly interested in the last item on which you reported with the 4 component pieces, and it appears as though you have that in writing, and rather than ask you any questions, if it's possible to get a copy of your
Absolutely.
comments, I'd like to read and understand that, because I think there were a number of very important points in there that I'd like to be more familiar with.
Definitely. I will make sure that's circulated by email this week.
The whole
Okay.
board, please.
Yes, the whole board.
Member Baum.
A couple of things. First off, I really appreciate the Vice Chancellor Bruckman and Paul's movement on very promptly on this request to clarify how foundations may be able to have access to alumni information, because one of the things you haven't updated us on a couple of things. One is the OSHA grant.
That's coming.
No. He just asked for questions on these
Okay,
particular things. You want
Right. Then all I was going to say is that it's so important to have that framework to be able to actually reach out to the people who are most inclined to give to the districts, and we have not had that statewide for until now, I believe. And we're fortunate at Pasadena City College to have been the beneficiary of a $4 million bequest from an alum in 1930, from the class of 36, who had very little contact. He was married to an instructor, but we had very little contact with him as a donor. And then, but thank goodness he found it, and his wife were able to make such a gift to the district.
Member Haley, did you have your? No. Okay, please proceed.
So getting to the endowment campaign, we have about 6.5, 7 weeks to go in that campaign. And all of you remember, of course, that we were planning at the last meeting for the Hands Across California project. And that is a direct fundraising effort for the endowment. And I want to run through with you a quick slideshow that shows you some of the things that happened on that day. And this, of course, was on April 17th, just about 3 weeks ago now. And it was an event that encompassed colleges throughout the state. And we had an interesting array of things happen throughout the colleges statewide. And I hope all of you can read what's on the screen. And this, of course, will be emailed to all the board members as well. But we had a number of celebrities involved at locations up and down the state. MC Hammer, many of you remember, of course, from the 1980s, but he's remains a viable force, particularly in the social media realm today. He helped organize people in a line that stretched directly in front of the Oakland Coliseum. We had a saxophone player, Dave Koz, for anybody who's a jazz fan, a very accomplished sax player. Literally led a group of people hand in hand down the Santa Monica Pier, and there's some fantastic visuals that came out of that event going right down the Santa Monica Pier. And of course, Chancellor Scott gathered with hundreds in front of the state capitol. We had a number of other actors, including Ed Begley Jr., who was an alumnus of our system, and Yvette Nicole Brown, who stars on the NBC show Community, standing among political leaders and students at colleges up and down the state. And they all came together on that one day, April 17th, to support the Hands Across California effort and ultimately to support the initiative that is the California Community Colleges Scholarship Endowment, as well as the cause of students in our system, generally speaking. And there you see a picture on the right of Dave Koz leading that line right down Santa Monica Pier. And in addition, you see Mayor Villaraigosa, who spoke at East Los Angeles College, where he is an alumnus, along with Yvette Nicole Brown, who appeared there as well. Resulted in 60-plus campus events throughout the state, and indeed there, in fact, were campus events not just on that day, but in the weeks leading up to the event. And College of Marin, for example, did an event on the Thursday prior. Moreno Valley College just did their event as they returned from spring break last Tuesday. And so we're seeing continuing efforts on the colleges throughout the state as a result of this. We just got word this morning that Riverside College is engaging in a significant Hands Across California related undertaking to raise funds right now as well. Tens of thousands of people were participating on the day of, on April 17th, up and down the state. And this really did result in unprecedented media exposure and awareness. We've seen headlines in newspapers, we've seen news coverage, and we've seen internet coverage up and down the state that is at a level we've never seen certainly before. Some of our partners that were involved, and I mentioned them at the last meeting, UPS did deliver the logistics for much of what occurred that day. They had drivers and trucks located at colleges throughout the state, at the 60-plus colleges that were actually identified as part of the route, and you can see that they had a very strong and visible presence. They had hundreds, literally hundreds of employees and their families on site at colleges up and down the state, many of whom, of course, are community college alumni themselves, some of whom are students themselves. And that partnership continues to grow, and it's really a testament to not just UPS, but I think to the potential of our system that we can develop partnerships at the highest levels with companies like this, because UPS on a Sunday literally deployed vehicles, deployed personnel, all of which was volunteer, and deployed resources to plan that out, and had drivers getting up early in the morning on Sunday and driving to locations remote to where the trucks are usually stored on a weekend. Taking part in the festivities on campuses up and down the state, and essentially giving up their Sunday all voluntarily to take part in this event, and we're very excited about their involvement in this. And this is just a small indicator of some of the amazing images that we did receive that UPS was a part of. We have photos of UPS workers in line in their brown T-shirts, holding hands with kids as well as with students, as well as with families and adults. And at the same time, we had AT&T as a key partner in this effort as well. And of course, they not only were a sponsor, but also created the Text to Give campaign, which, by the way, is still active for anybody who would like to text hands to 27722. You can donate $10 today to do that. And one of the priceless images was the two little boys here holding hands in front of our banner at one of the colleges. And there's many, many more like that, and unfortunately I can't put them all on a slideshow, but the imagery that we got out of this day was something I think that will last an awful long time. We made headlines, as I mentioned, throughout the state, and really the media coverage was better than we, I think, expected. We were able to secure not just evening newscasts up and down the state, but also coverage in most of the major newspapers in our state, just about all of the minor newspapers in our state, and also the Associated Press, the Huffington Post, and other national coverage that resulted in additional ripple effect coverage in a number of other media venues that we didn't traditionally have access to prior to this. And you see one of the quotes that came out of one of the articles: California is nearly broke, the educational system is struggling, and the economy remains wobbly. But a large group of energetic and idealistic young college students gathered this weekend to strengthen the one thing they can count on, one another. And that came out of the gathering in San Jose, and it was part of an article that was in the San Jose Mercury News. And you see MC Hammer in line there in Oakland. That was from the Contra Costa Times. And you see the Orange County Register carried a full-color photo on the front page of their second section as well, with UPS strategically placed in the background. We try to take care of our sponsors as best we can.
They should be happy about that.
And then you see some pictures from throughout the state. That shadow picture was one of our favorites as well, just because it's such a neat photo. Keep in mind as well that the College Scene Photo Contest is that we sponsor every year. We've added a new category this year for specifically Hands Across California, and we're expecting some amazing photos to come from our students being submitted to that contest as well. You can see Yvette Nicole Brown there from the NBC show Community, standing in line with the UPS driver at East LA. You can see at the Capitol a line of folks that literally ringed the south steps of the Capitol. And some quotes from some of the folks, and you can see the promotional efforts as well. But Gavin Newsom up in the top right spoke at City College of San Francisco in the days leading up to the event. And his quote: "Efforts such as Hands Across California, which bring people together from all demographics, regions, and political parties, provide youth an opportunity to achieve their dream." And Gavin Newsom was a phenomenal supporter of this project and really got behind it in ways that we didn't necessarily expect. He addressed it. He has a regular tweet broadcast where he answers questions that come to him via Twitter. And literally, he's sitting in a room at City College San Francisco after the event. He got a tweet from somebody asking about Hands Across California, and he proceeded to, spur of the moment, give about a 5-minute monologue on Hands Across California, on the community colleges, and on why you should text HANDS to 27722. That was both unprompted and unknown to us until after it occurred. He also put this event on his homepage for the days leading up to the event, and really was a fabulous help to us. Some of the feedback we got from some of the colleges, Pierce College told us the Hands at Pierce raised more awareness for community college students than anything they'd ever done before. And the student organizer at San Jose City College was recognizing certainly the thanks to UPS. And there are folks down at San Jose City College. The students there were engaged not just the day of the event, but also they had a big barbecue and concert the weekend prior to drum up support for the event as well. And you can see way up at College of the Redwoods, they did an event locally as well, and it was raining there and it wasn't real pleasant, and they had literally several hundred people out in line that day, despite the rain and despite the cold, to show their support for both College of the Redwoods and their students. At East LA, you can see the line was significant. We had Southern California Edison volunteers there, as well as UPS volunteers, and the mayor and many others. And at Los Angeles Valley College, we had a number of folks, including actress Michelle Lee, actress Deidre Hall, one of the Van Pattens, and Ed Begley Jr. And Ed Begley Jr. is an alumnus of Valley College, by the way. And you can see we also had the local fire department on hand. Their truck literally parked next to the UPS truck and gave us quite a visual of the participation of the firefighters, some of whom were LA Valley College alumni that worked literally right down the street from the college now. And one of our students at LA Valley gave us a quote that really was a standout quote from all of the feedback that we've gotten. And he said, quite simply, "From nothing, we've laid down the foundation, created the infrastructure, and built the capacity for people to organize, mobilize, and empower their fellow students and respective college campuses. We should not let all this hard work go to waste. Truly, the hardest part is over with. We've built a vehicle of change. Now let's use it. And that was somewhat synonymous with the feedback that we got from many, many student organizers at colleges up and down the state. They all came to me in the days afterward asking what's next, and I said vacation facetiously, but the reality is there's a very strong feeling among those who took part in this event that this is something that's the start of something bigger. And that was one of the exciting things that came out of this. And literally we got a text message from, because AT&T communicates sometimes with us that way, we got a text message from one of the principals at AT&T who participated in the event at the state capitol where Chancellor Scott spoke and others as well. And immediately in the minutes after the event, he said he had goosebumps and he was going to be sure that AT&T continued not only to support our efforts and the California community colleges, but upped its investment in the colleges going forward as a result of his experience at the event and his experience hearing Chancellor Scott speak for the first time as well. He was so excited that he literally got on his phone immediately and told us that AT&T will be on board in the future. And we're excited about that as well. And we also had a number of elected officials take part in events throughout the state. Here you see Daz Williams at Santa Barbara City College which he attended as a younger person, and the college that he credits with changing his life. And he told us his story. It's a pretty amazing one. He was living in a car at the time that he enrolled at Santa Barbara City College, and he's now a state assemblyman. And he tells his story in a very, very powerful and eloquent way. We had a number of others, as I mentioned, Mayor Villaraigosa at Los Angeles. Member Fiorentani was at Compton. And the Compton event was a phenomenal event with hundreds of people, and the folks at Compton were remarking to us afterward they had never seen anything like this take place at Compton College that brought students together and the community together to support Compton and to support the efforts of what is now Compton Center. And their excitement about that was something that was really one of the great wins, I think, of this event. I had the opportunity to speak with one of their student organizers at the General Assembly in just a couple weeks prior to the Hands event. And this is a young man who very clearly has gone through trials and tribulations in his life, and he took this on as a challenge and as an opportunity. And he mobilized literally hundreds to take part in this at a college that, generally speaking, does not have a whole lot of energized student engagement. And that changed on this day. And with Member Fiorentani there, and with Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas was also there from Los Angeles, it was really something for the Compton folks to take part in and take a part of. And so with that, that's a snapshot of what happened that day. We received word, and we're still doing, of course, collection of funds from colleges throughout the state, and we won't have hard numbers on dollars raised until June 30th when the campaign comes to a close. Many colleges, as we've talked about in the past, are holding their donations until the very last moment to transfer them to us. We do know that from the event, currently we are at about $250,000 to $270,000 committed in additional scholarship support to the endowment, and that, of course, will go to a variety of different places. Some of it is unrestricted, some of it is committed to specific colleges, and we'll fill those individual buckets that we've talked about many times. That which is unrestricted, of course, we will work to distribute to colleges that don't have commitments currently. That said, we're putting a call out, of course, to all the colleges between now and June 30th. This is the final 7 weeks of the matching gift campaign, meaning the Osher Challenge ends June 30th, 2011. And we have about, as I mentioned, 7 weeks until that date. To date, we have committed in the fund about $62 million. Keep in mind that just almost 3 years ago now, we had an endowment of $0, and we're now at $62 million. So we're excited about that. Obviously, the initial goal of $100 million is going to be awfully difficult to reach. We have 15 colleges that have met or exceeded their goals, and some of them have exceeded them by a fair stretch, as much as 150 or more % of the initial goal as of April 30th, and we know of additional colleges that have met their goals, and we'll be transferring those funds shortly. Pasadena, by the way, is one of those as a result of that gift that will be meeting its full goal. They've advised us that at least a portion of that gift will meet the commitment that they had as part of this endowment. However, we also have to date 22 colleges that have raised $0 to date. So You can see the wide smattering of results in our system. We have an additional 6 colleges that to date, and again, that's as of April 30th, have raised or transferred $1,000 or less to the endowment. So all told, we have what you might expect, which is a bucket of colleges over here that have done fabulously well and have exceeded their goals or are about to do so. We have a number in the middle that have raised some portion of their total goal. And then we have a group over here that have raised 0 or very, very close to $0. And so that said, this will be a fascinating case study to write after the campaign ends in July. And I will say, too, though, that to date we've awarded somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,800 scholarships, I believe the number is, over the past 2 years. And that number, of course, will continue to grow. And ultimately, we envision that this will be just the start of an endowment that not only will continue to grow upon itself in the future, but has already instigated other activity in our system, the Kresge study being one of those, the social enterprise academies being another. And some of the major gifts that have been announced in the last couple of years, we'd like to think, at least in some small part, were spurred by this move toward major gifts being made to community colleges. Of course, the Osher announcement in May of 2008 was the first of its kind. Just this spring, we've seen not only the Pasadena gift, but Bakersfield College announce a massive gift that set records. And things like that just simply didn't happen before. And we're very excited to see this continuing to grow. Obviously, I wish I had more time, but given the fact that we have such a wide division between colleges that have raised $0 and colleges that have exceeded their goals, I'm not entirely sure that a extension of time would change that scenario so much as a different approach to fundraising at some colleges. With that said, this has obviated where some of those challenges are, and we're excited about that as well. And as I mentioned, when we write the postmortem on this campaign, probably this summer, there will be an awful lot of lessons learned, one of which is how life-changing this has been for the students that have benefited from those $1,000 scholarships per year. And we have very, very clear and concise evidence of that from a number of colleges throughout the state. It will also be very telling in terms of which colleges jumped on board and got behind this and saw it as a fundraising tool that could help them with their stewardship and cultivation of additional donor dollars for other initiatives on college campuses. And then there will be very clear evidence as well of some colleges that simply either did not have the ability or did not have the interest in participating in this campaign. And toward that end, I hope we can all have a discussion about what that means this summer or later. But that said, the results to date having created now what will be this summer at least a $62 million endowment, and we know that there's more money coming between now and June 30th, certainly. That's a very exciting thing, I think, for anybody who benefits from this endowment at any of the colleges that are benefiting from it. And keep in mind that every single college in our system receives scholarships from the initial gift already. It's what they do with the additional efforts that is a question. But having been able to award scholarships through each of the 112 colleges over the past couple of years and continuing to do that into the future, and seeing at the local level what those scholarships do for those students is really a rewarding thing, I think, for all at the colleges who get to award those scholarships, whether or not they're raising additional funds or not. Can I answer any questions?
Board member questions? Member Baca, Member Baum.
First of all, I'm glad to hear that the foundation is going to continue to be able to fund the chancellor's office at the same level, which is very good news. Thank you for that. And congratulations on your work. I recognize that Hands Across California could have included many, many more people, but I think it was a success in terms of bringing attention and having a greater awareness within the state as to the community colleges and our fundraising and being able to get a lot of people to support us. So congratulations on that work. Just a little bit of an editorial commentary. I noticed that you had San Jose there noted, but you actually had a photo of Mount Sac folks.
Yes.
So I don't know if
Yes, Mount Sac had a very nice turnout. We tried to put in as many colleges as we could into a very short PowerPoint in some way or other, but
Yeah, well.
that photo wasn't meant to represent San Jose.
Oh, I see. Okay. But anyway, just, it was an editorial clarification so that we wouldn't get confused with San Jose because.
No, and we appreciated your
John
participation.
Nixon is here, so I'd be remiss if I didn't bring that up.
Right.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anyway, that's it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Member Baum?
I think beyond the funds that will go to students from the Osher gift, and we may not reach the goal, the lasting legacy will also be the capacity building that has gone on in the past 3 years, and it's been so important for districts to realize that they have a role in actually raising revenue, and communities have an opportunity to support their local community college, which they hadn't been asked for. And so I'm hoping that you and your colleagues in the foundation and our representatives on the board will continue to come back to us at the system to help identify ways that we can help provide some structural supports that allow individual districts and the foundation to raise the funds. Like I said, I didn't know until January when a foundation officer from the LA district, LA City College, came up to me and he says, you know, we'd love to do more, but we can't even get a list of our alumni to let them know about this possibility. That's a structural reform or act that we can take as a system in order to support yours and your colleagues' efforts. And so I'm hoping that there are other ways that we can find ways that the Board of Governors can actually support those efforts, and looking forward to hearing those.
Member McDougall?
My question has to do with the 22 colleges that raised zero with a rather exceptional opportunity in front of them. Do you know whether any of those colleges have foundations?
I actually scanned the list this morning. Several of them do, yes.
Do you have any understanding as to why they didn't leap on this opportunity?
Well, you know, it's an interesting discussion, and obviously there's probably 22 slightly different reasons, but one reason is a proclaimed lack of resources to be able to focus on this. One is the idea that raising funds for scholarships is not the priority right now. Keeping the doors open is, or funding programs that are in peril is. Another is simply that they could not get the buy-in from either the foundation board or staff or the administration of the college or the district in the idea of investing in a statewide endowment that would ultimately benefit the college and its foundation, certainly, but would not remain as a local asset. It would be transferred to, quote-unquote, Sacramento. And that's it. I think we've come light years from where we were 3 years ago in that conversation, because we have delivered scholarships to every one of our colleges for 2 years running, and we've administered the endowment, and actually that $25 million gift, but despite 2 years of payouts, is above water today. And that's a pretty remarkable, I think, achievement for anybody in this time, you know, certainly of economic uncertainty the past 2 years. But the fact that the initial $25 million is actually worth more than $25 million right now, despite the fact that we've paid out 2 years of 5% payout on that endowment, I think is indicative of our ability to manage the fund effectively and efficiently, guided by certainly the investment management group that we've put together, as well as our folks at JP Morgan that are helping us with this. That said, there is simply a divergence of opinion among those in the field about whether or not they value this as an opportunity, despite ultimately what is very clearly a tremendous opportunity for a donor in the power of their giving being increased by 50%, and a phenomenal opportunity to support students in the long run with meaningful scholarship dollars. These are not $100 scholarships, they're $1,000 scholarships, and that makes the massive difference in the life of a student in need, certainly in our system. So I think we've seen, and again, the postmortem, I think, will probably delve into this a bit, and I think it'll be a very valuable exercise for our system as we think about development efforts going forward. But this statewide endowment was something that was a scary idea to a lot of colleges a couple of years ago, because they didn't want to send their money to Sacramento. For that reason, perhaps some colleges didn't ever get on board. Other colleges overcame that and have, as I mentioned, raised, in fact, we have one college that's raised 176% of its goal. they clearly don't have concerns about what's happening. In fact, they're energized by it and they're excited by it. In other cases, we've just had a complete state of flux the last couple of years at local colleges in their advancement operations, if they had one. And certainly there have been budget cuts, there have been layoffs, there have been defunding of foundations at certain colleges in our system. So I think there's a wide smattering of answers for you, but certainly there are some that we can address and some that we might not be able to.
One follow-up, if I may, Scott? Quick follow-up.
Quick, yes.
I just want to be certain that I have the correct understanding of it. Once a college submits their amount, they are guaranteed that proportion of the return each year. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay.
Okay. Member Haley, then Vice President Perez.
Thank you. Both Member McDonald and Jeff Baum asked the questions that I was interested in. You and I talked about them a little bit before. It's the 22 colleges that I'm very interested in. I wonder if that is information that we can have.
It is. We have a report that we update that shows the funds raised college by college, and I'm in the process of making sure that this is updated with the latest figures, but I'd be more than happy to email that out to the board as well.
Thank you.
Vice President Perez.
So first, I just want to applaud the efforts of your staff as well as the local community colleges and the representatives on those colleges for all the effort that went into Hands Across California. I think for a first-time event, there's a lot of lessons learned from that, and we could celebrate the successes, but also learn where, if we ever did such a big event again, you know, we could do things a little differently. You had given us that list before, so I was going to follow up on that list. But the other thing is, I'm not sure if that list that you had provided us actually also had a column that showed how much in scholarships that campus has received to date.
It does not, but we can provide that as well.
I think that would be really helpful, because then if we had that information, we can go back and have dialogue with our locals to talk to them about the potential of what they could receive versus what they have received, and then also highlight some of the others. Member Davis Lyman and myself had met at the end of last year with Bryce Harris to talk about Los Rios, because they were on there, and everyone knows they've done an exceptional job at raising funds. They had a capital campaign going on, so they were not focused on it, but he told us they would focus this year. So I'm curious to see where they are, so we can go back and have further dialogue if need be. But I would encourage the rest of the board members as well to look at some of the campuses on that list, as well as the districts, and have that dialogue. The other thing was, we had offered to have a letter drawn up from our board president that we can send to all those boards, the local boards. I think, in this time, we have 7 weeks left. Again, I would just like to ask if, we can get that letter. Scott's more than willing to sign that letter, because I think the chancellor has done a good job reaching out at a higher level. But now if we actually went to the boards and tried to address the boards specifically, we might have some success there as well. So.
Member Reed, then Member Baca.
I had two items. One, I'd just like to remind the board that when this OSHA grant was given, there was no money allocated for administrative expense. So Paul and his staff have been able to generate this effort without any funding as a separate item, and I think that's an accomplishment in itself. And the other issue, we had a finance committee meeting just recently with J.P. Morgan, who's the managing firm of the OSHA monies, along with the WellPoint monies, and I'd like to say that they had been given a very directive process in investing the monies on our behalf, and they've done an excellent job. But even in taking a lengthy time to actually get those monies to work through the effort of Keitha Mills and Paul's office and others, I think the number was a little over $4 million of earnings that they've made off of the OSHA and WellPoint money since they took over just a few months ago. So I'd really like to compliment Keitha and his office, as well as that advisory board, for the efforts that they've made with J.P. Morgan. That is going to stand us well in continuing to fund this foundation efforts that OSHA has been so generous in giving.
Member Baca.
At Mount SAC, we've given out quite a few OSHA scholarships, so it's not always clear to me why some colleges might perceive it as being a state-controlled and local-controlled. I mean, in the end, it's the students from that college, so the other stuff may be a little bit vague to some people as to what the intent there is. I got a little sidetracked earlier with the photo, but I meant to ask, and only because I feel the need to ask it, not because I don't have a sense of the certainty of it, but any likelihood that there'd be an extension on our ability to?
I don't believe there's any probability whatsoever, and that's been very clear from the day the agreement was
Well, I
signed.
remember those things.
Mr. Osher is very clear on his, my word is my bond, and a
Sure.
deal is a deal.
And-
So, you know, and.
Felt the
and-
need to ask it, I guess.
Absolutely, and believe me, it's not a question I haven't been asked before, so I appreciate it. And, you know, looking back, it would be terrific if we had additional time, certainly. But again, some of the structural issues we're seeing at local colleges wouldn't necessarily be materially impacted by an extension. Others would be, but I think, you know, literally we have 112 different stories, and that's the challenge of our system, which is such a diverse system, as you have heard many times. City College of San Francisco, of course, is the size of a dozen other colleges put together. They have met their goal essentially with one gift, which is a fabulous gift. I've met with that donor just last week at the Osher offices. That said, they've also attracted other gifts as well. But we have other colleges that don't have access to or haven't cultivated donors of that nature. And that's one of the key points here is development is not an immediate effort. It's a cultivation effort that takes time. And certainly, if you have a college that has no infrastructure in place at the outset of this campaign 3 years ago to raise significant dollars or to cultivate major donors or prospects, or don't even know how to do so to begin with, it's pretty difficult to imagine that in the space of a couple of years you might turn that around if you have nobody focused on doing just that. So that said, we have seen other colleges that have made phenomenal progress in that type of structure being implemented. Mount Sac being one of them, where the ED there of the foundation is doing amazing things, and they're actually, in fact, I got a note just, I think it was last week, that they've initiated a calling campaign to their alumni for the first time and are seeing fabulous indications of results from that effort. And that effort is directly on the heels of their Hands Across California effort. And he was stating that was one of the real indicators of success for him, was they were getting warm reception on the calls they were making, which is, again, an intangible or qualitative outcome of this campaign and certainly of the event that we can't put on a spreadsheet per se, but over the years to come, that will bear fruit that we won't know about. That said, I have a fabulous picture of you in line at Mount Sac, by the way. I'd be happy to share.
I wasn't trying to promote anything.
Member Davis Lyman.
Yes, what an absolutely incredible campaign this has been. And as you said, Dr. Lanning, it will be years before we know where it all ends. But I wanted to clarify, whether colleges give anything, their students, right? As I remember Mr. Osher talking about this, every college will have the same amount of scholarships.
Every college has a minimal amount of scholarships
Right.
already, yes.
Okay, and that will continue?
Yes.
Whether foundations, whether give money to the fund.
From
So
the initial
every-
$25 million gift, every single one of our 112 colleges have a piece of that $25 million initial gift and have already received 2 years' worth of scholarships and will, in perpetuity, receive those.
Continue to.
Yes,
So
that'll
our
never
students
change.
will benefit, whether the
Correct.
college raises.
Every single college has a minimum of 5 per year.
Well,
forever.
I'm hoping that your birthday, the day after the Osher event, was as eventful, or maybe as quieter than the event.
It was my phone attached to my ear, but it was much quieter than the day of, definitely. Thank you.
Well, congratulations.
Great, Paul.
Other board member
Just quick
comments?
comment.
Member Barreras.
Yes. Put this closer here. My president, Jeanette Mann, here from the CCCT is here, and Jan, I was thinking maybe we can add this to one of our agenda items for our CCCT to raise more awareness with our members on the CCCT, and that way we can disseminate information and use it on the league webpage as well.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
I want to point out, too, real quickly, that although the matching dollars expire June 30th, meaning that any gifts that come into the endowment after June 30th will not be augmented by Osher dollars.
Right.
The endowment doesn't close up shop June 30th. We will have the ability to continue to build this endowment into the future with the stipulations that are in place now. And ultimately, that is the single most powerful earning vehicle for a scholarship fund in the state right now. And when you look at the number of dollars that have been raised to date, you look at the value of the endowment, as Member Reed points out, the management of that fund at a very high level by J.P. Morgan and our statewide advisory committee that has been put together. I certainly would encourage colleges and districts to consider the fact that this endowment is there for their benefit, and those 112 accounts within that endowment will not go away. So although there's not augmentation of the fund, there is wise fiscal management of the fund, and that ultimately will benefit students in the long run much more than perhaps the gift itself might.
Thank you. I also want to commend you for the great work on both fronts. Just two couple quick things. One, I do want to ask that you follow up on that letter to
Certainly.
Presidents. I know we've made that request before, so if you could follow up on that, that would be great. Then number two, I'd like, I'm just doing the math here, and tell me if I'm right. The OSHA initiative has collected $62 million total, correct?
All in, including the
All
OSHA
in.
money.
So if you back out the initial $25 million that was donated, that means $37 million has come in. Of that $37 million, it means you, through your efforts, or the foundation efforts, have, over the time period, brought in $18.5 million. Is that, am I tracking that right?
About 20.
Should be the other way around.
Is it the other way around?
They'd
Well-
brought in 24 and matched with, well,
Our efforts and the efforts of
Okay.
the system would result in 2/3 of that 37 having been raised, and then the 1/3 would be the OSHA 50% match.
Okay, so
So we're at about
we've-
$25 million generated.
In 3
give or
years.
take.
I'd say that's a heck of a job.
It's, thank you.
Yeah, good work. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.